In this video, we're going to explain and go through what happened across the weekend, what you need to look for this week, and especially the key levels across crypto, stocks, and commodities. I'll also be sharing how I made $9,000 as Bitcoin sold down going long at spot. Let's run the numbers. Across the weekend, Bitcoin was hit by geopolitical uncertainty as Iran launched missiles at Israel. Just recently, we've seen a bit of an uptick inside the crypto market as at the United Nations, Iran told the UN that it doesn't plan to attack the US. President Biden is also urging caution as Israel weighs its response to Iran. The global crypto market cap has come down 6.58% in the past 24 hours. We can see that standout strength is being exhibited by Solana at the current time, whereas Bitcoin, Ethereum, Binance Coin, XRP and Doge are all down. We can see that the greatest gainers over the past 24 hours are AI and memes, something to just keep your mind on. The greatest losers are not that many. In fact, if we look at the greatest losers, they're pretty much stable coins. Across the board, there's been a fantastic rebound in Bitcoin and also the alts. And we can see that there's a lot of rebound that's happened. In the past 24 hours, most of these were double-digit negative. The Bitcoin halving is a mere 4 days and 20 hours away. When the main markets closed on Friday night, we saw negative price momentum flowing in to the major indices. We saw gold spike but then die. And we also saw a really big sell-off in Bitcoin. Also, oil was coming down quite dramatically. To gain an insight how the main markets may move in the next 24 hours, we can look towards the futures. The S&P 500 futures are starting to recover. The Dow starting to recover, the Russell starting, and the Nasdaq starting. This should put positive price momentum throughout the major indices and the major stock markets throughout the world. But just bear in mind, we've come down quite significantly. To get these kind of retracements is quite normal. Always be prepared for the down case if things turn south and go nuts to the downside. But if things keep on repairing, we would expect upward positive momentum. Things are very politically uncertain at the current time. A lot of people will be looking to the oil price, and we saw oil just reach out and just attack this 87.20 structural resistance line and then fail back down to structural support at that 85.25. If there is a wider war with Iran, you can expect that oil prices will go nuts upwards. If there is a wider conflict, it will also be very negative for inflation. As oil comes up, it tends to fund wars. We see a big increase in the number of wars as the oil price goes up. We see a big decrease in the number of wars as oil prices go down. This is just historically correct. But if oil comes up, we would expect more inflation and higher rates and higher yields and a higher DXY as well, and that means negative price momentum on the major markets. The big players inside financial markets play a lot of games with retail, so just please be aware. What we saw was gold just really getting across this structural level of resistance at 23.94, but up above 24.40 is an absolute barrage. Even though there was a fresh air gap, these can turn into negative air as well. We saw gold come down to structural resistance or structural support levels at that 23.38 level, and it's bounced up to the next structural resistance level at 23.70. You can see I can't do tongue twisters, and no, I'm not AI. I just simply want you to see the charts instead of my face, because the charts are where the action really is. We can see that gold has quite a good structural support level around that 23.38, so just keep that in mind. If the dollar and yields start to go up, we would expect negative price momentum on gold. And gold, even though it's geopolitically sensitive, it really loves wars. It loves to rally into a war, but it also likes to collapse when a war actually occurs. Just something to bear in mind. A lot of people are cheering on this upsurge in crypto, but just please be aware, the crypto has fallen quite traumatically. We're still in a downtrend, and we're approaching the halving. The halving is typically a negative event, not a positive event, as most people think it is. It tends to be positive after the halving, not during it. If you know your structural resistance levels and structural support levels, you'll get X-ray vision into where the markets could go. Also, pay a lot of attention to gaps in between structural levels because price can just slice through them very, very quickly until it finds structural support, but that could take quite a few levels to get through. We've seen that Bitcoin is trying to take this structural support level, once resistance, and turn it into support, literally at the current price of 65,231. We can see that if Bitcoin comes up to challenge this once structural support level, and it's now currently structural resistance around that 66,700 level, that's going to be interesting because we would assume that we're going to get into that level and back off. It could just consolidate for some time. Please be aware that if we lose this structural level right here, if Bitcoin doesn't get through the 67,200 level, if it doesn't get up there and start to go forward, start to go north, that puts the bearish case into momentum. Please let me know your thoughts. Where do you think Bitcoin will go? Do you think it will challenge this 67,200 mark or make its way back to 63,300 or even lower at the 62,100 mark? Always think in terms of 3 dimensions. Price is always moving in a wave. It's going down and it's coming up. It's going down and it's coming up. That's why you need to know where the structure will support an upward price momentum and where resistance will support a downwards price momentum. Always make sure that you understand structural resistance levels are not brick walls. They're safety nets. You can go below, but we would expect it to bottom out around those structural support levels. When you're looking at the crypto market, Bitcoin will give you an overall dimension on where things are going, but total crypto market cap will help you to understand what headwinds or what tailwinds can be exhibited on the alts. Right now, we can see total crypto market cap has come into this one structural resistance level and it's seeking to turn it into support. That 2.31 trillion. If it gets up, it's got a bit of a headache at 2.33. Prices came up very quickly because we had a positive fresh air gap. If we lose this particular support, we're coming back down. That's what the bears would want. But if we're going up, the bulls would want this case, but we may end up going up slowly, not rapidly. The reasoning behind Solana's ascent, it has very little structural resistance levels above it. It's doing really, really well because it has so many positive fresh air gaps, but it needs Bitcoin's momentum to the upside for it to come up. With Solana, the areas to watch are this 146 structural support area and the 159 structural resistance areas. Just keep your eyes on those. Of course, the lower ones around that 131 are really important too. With BNB, we're starting to get across that 566 structural resistance level, and it's looking quite good. It looks like Binance Coin will seek to make its way up to the 572. All of these levels are available if you just apply Level 1 and Level 2 standard certification. Alternately, if you're time poor, you can actually get the indicator from CTKSMethod.org. We can see that the BNB is starting to make its way across, but always have your 3-dimensional risk management just playing out at all times. Know where the structural levels are because these will be the things that capture and rebound price, either to the upside or to the downside. They're very important to know the location of. Always remember that all alts get their strength from Bitcoin. When you look at a chart and you look at something like this, it means that Bitcoin is going up. If Bitcoin is coming down, you would expect to see an overextended movement to the downside or to the negative side until we find a level of structure, and that level of structure will support that specific chart. All charts are different. All charts have different structures. And you can see that pretty clearly. Right now, we're in a positive fresh air gap with Doge, but because Bitcoin is consolidating, it's causing Doge to consolidate. A lot of people don't understand this about the crypto market. Bitcoin controls the fate of the alts. We can see up here, we've got quite considerable structural resistance just below that 17,200 mark. We have considerable structural support around the 14,800 mark. As I was saying before, all charts have different structures, and you can see with Litecoin is just consolidating around that 79.90 mark. It's just seeking to get above there, but it will rely on Bitcoin's strength. It will overextend it either to the upside, and we may take out that 83 level, or to the downside. But fortunately, we've got a lot of structural support levels underneath here, and the more structural support levels you have, the stronger the structure is. Across the weekend, Uniswap was introduced as a this month only indicator, and you can see Uni has so much structural support around that $6.10 mark. And it's currently coming into a little bit of structural resistance around the 690 mark. Always bear in mind, structural resistance is critically important to understand. It acts as a natural ceiling or a natural floor on price, especially when you get huge concentrations of structural support. That's what you want to look for. When there are massive sell downs inside any market, and don't forget, we're looking at crypto, but this applies exactly the same to commodities and Forex and stocks and indices. Just look for your confluence of structural support levels. They're going to be very, very valuable if we get negative price momentum. And then you're seeking for price to overcome a series of structural resistance levels and confirm its upward bias. Always bear in mind that Ethereum, just like all the other alts, gains its strength from Bitcoin. If Bitcoin consolidates right at the current time, all of the alts will consolidate until Bitcoin makes up its mind to move in one direction or another. Just bear in mind, your structural levels are absolutely critical to watch. Turning to Bitcoin Cash, we can see that Bitcoin Cash is overextending, and this is what Bitcoin Cash tends to do. Bitcoin Cash and Litecoin tend to overextend Bitcoin's price momentum, so just be aware of the personalities that you will encounter as you look at the specific charts. We would expect, if this continues, to at least take out this 528 level. Structural support levels exist at around that 501 and then around the 490 mark. We have quite strong structure just below the 470s, so just keep these particular levels in mind if you're trading Bitcoin Cash. And remember, the price is always moving in a wave. It's just its nature. When any specific chart is overextended to the negative side, and we've seen a lot of negative price momentum on both XRP and ADA, just bear in mind that they tend to attract a lot of shorts into their structure. If they attract a lot of shorts when price momentum comes up, especially in the major market indices, in the crypto market, that's Bitcoin. If Bitcoin's price comes up, it will end up liquidating all these short positions and allow different crypto projects to bypass a lot of structural resistance levels. Just something to keep in mind. AVAX was also released into the service, so just bear in mind where those structural levels are and how Bitcoin reacts. You will find that some structure is weaker than Bitcoin and others are stronger than Bitcoin. You want to back strength wherever you can. I wanted to share some trades I did in yesterday's price action when price came down so much in terms of Solana and also in terms of Doge. You can see that between the buy and sell orders here, it took about half an hour to just dispose of both of these. The Solana trade made $370 and the Doge trade made $616. This is US dollars. Also, I did some trading on Bitcoin, which turned about $5,100 US. And that was done in around 2 hours. The total return or the total profit on these trades, which in all case from end to end took about 2 hours, was over 6,000 US dollars, which equates to around 9,000 Aussie dollars. Not bad for a couple of hours work. Here you can see a scaled Bitcoin trading, and the Bitcoin trade levels that I'm doing are quite large, but I just wanted to show you, you can start small and scale, but you can also scale, and when you scale up you'll find that you'll do very, very well, but it takes time and emotional control. The reason that I wanted to show you these trades, you can make money in a negative market. Look at Bitcoin. What did Bitcoin do just in the past 7 days? It came down and came down really, really hard in the past 30 days. But if you're trading, you can do incredibly well if you want to learn the skills how to trade. The first thing that you need is knowledge. So perhaps pop across to CTKSMethod.org. It'll really help you out. I wouldn't do any of these trades if I didn't know the structural levels, and we already understand why Solana is doing so well, because it has very little structural resistance. That means when Bitcoin comes up, it's going to overextend what happens to Bitcoin. Have a great day or night ahead, my friends, and Kate and I look forward to catching up with you again in the next video. Bye for now.